The Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Reaper Apparel Company. Reaper Apparel offers a casual line of superb fit, finish, and comfort. We design for those who refuse to die slowly and choose to live untamed. For those who aren't afraid to face the dark, for the ones that thrive in it, and for those who can appreciate life through a grim lens. That's Reaper Apparel Company. Go to the link in the description of this episode, use the promo code Mike Bono, and get 10% off. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Tactical Brotherhood, all American-made apparel, which helps support the Second Amendment. You can also find all this in the description of this episode with the link Tactical Brotherhood. Part of every proceed does go to helping veterans. It is a very good cause. All American-made products made right here in Minnesota. Go and check them out. Use the promo code PATRIOT15 to get 15% off your purchase. The Ride Home Rants podcast wants to thank you for listening and let everybody know that we do offer monthly subscriptions to help support the show in other ways other than listening and downloading each episode. What you will get with each subscription is you will get bonus episodes that aren't released to everybody. You will also have a chance to ask me anything each and every month where I will put out a special episode just to answer your questions. You will also get more exclusive content that is not released to everybody. To subscribe to the show, go and click on the link in the description of this episode, and I look forward to your added support and to help us keep this show going. The Ride Home Rants podcast is also brought to you by Buddy's Beard Care. Buddy's Beard Care provides premium men's grooming products at an affordable price. Products are made in Ohio, and Buddy's Beard Care supports local. The majority of our supplies are from other Ohio-based companies. You can find them on social media at Buddy's Beard Care or online at buddysbeardcare.com. Use the promo code BONO15 and he will save you 15%. I've been using these products for a little over 6 months now, and my beard has never felt healthier. It has never grown faster, and according to my wife, it has never felt softer. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by former guest of the show in Matt Landowski in Sweet Hands Sports. Elevate their game with Sweet Hands Sports. Our sports gloves are designed for champions, providing ultimate grip and durability. Achieve greatness with every match. Choose Sweet Hands Sports for the winning edge. Grip your victory at sweethandsports.com. Use the promo code BONO10 and he will save you 10%. He has sent me a complimentary pair of golf gloves. They are so comfortable, durable, and breathable. You won't find a better pair of gloves out there. Again, sweethandsports.com, promo code BONO10. Lastly, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Deemed Fit, a clothing company from first responders for first responders. These products are so comfortable. They look great. They have great messages on them. They are provided to support first responders, especially those who worked through COVID. All of the proceeds are going to helping veterans and first responders with their mental and physical health. This is a great cause. I support anything that has to do with our first responders and our veterans. Again, deemedfit.co, promo code Mike Bono will save you 20%. Now, let's start the show. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Ride Home Rants podcast. This is, as always, your host, Mike Bono. I have a great guest for us today. He actually comes to us all the way from Lisbon, Ohio. He is an acquaintance and friend of two former guests of the show, and Jeremy McElroy, Drew McLaughlin, and, of course, everybody knows the wonderful manager of the podcast, Johnny Fitty Falcone. We're going to talk all things about him and his coaching path and everything like that. But Charles Bell joins the show. Charles, thanks for joining.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me. I am real excited for this.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on. So for the listeners out there that don't know who you are, where did you kind of grow up and, go to high school and that? And, did you play any sports growing up? And, take us through a little bit of that.
Sure, absolutely. So I grew up in Newcomerstown, Ohio, which is south of New Philadelphia, south of Canton.
Yeah.
Hometown of Woody Hayes, and Cy Young. So pretty famous little area. Little small town. So I grew up there, graduated from high school, played football and baseball, played a little bit of basketball, but, as I got older into junior high and then into high school, didn't quite have the heights that continued down that path. So stuck with football, stuck with baseball, ended up, going to Malone College before it was Malone University, and, went to play baseball. That didn't work out after my, freshman year, and then transferred in Youngstown State, finished up my engineering degree there. And, that's kind of where my athletic career stopped.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. So, yeah, I was played football in high school, at Brook High School in West Virginia, and little town called Fallsby, West Virginia. Famous for Lou Holtz. So, it's weird to see these little towns that these big name people now in the coaching world and the sports world that you wouldn't expect to come from these towns. That's always something that's interests me. But played football, swam, had a scholarship to swim at Bethany College, and had an unfortunate injury that kind of ended my sporting career, if you will, too, as well. So I definitely understand how that can take a toll, and things change and your path changes. I thought swimming was going to be it for me. I thought that was going to be the career path and was going to be an athlete, and it's a freak accident or freak injury that ends it all. But I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm down this path now, and I'm loving every minute of it.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how you feel and what you mean. I mean, I look at it when I got to Malone. My big focus was play baseball for 4 years and then be a physical therapist. And
okay,
I got through fall ball, and by the end of fall ball, it was pretty apparent that I wasn't where I needed to be on that team. It was NAIA back then. It was kind of the wild, wild west as far as scholarships, and so they could bring in quite a few guys. And then on top of that, Malone had just started their football program, so they had incurred a lot of additional costs, and so they were raising tuition the next year, and that just didn't fit into my budget. And I started out with a biology class my freshman year, and honestly, at the end of the first lab, I knew immediately that it wasn't for me, because doing the dissection of a cat, and I'm like, nah, I'm not a blood guy. Like I'm not good with that. So there was no way I was going to get through biology or physiology or any of that stuff. All the nursing students were all excited, for it, and it just wasn't me. So like I was quick to jump out of that, and ended up actually meeting my wife through baseball my freshman year, through a guy that I was a teammate with, and met my wife 2 weeks into school, and we've been together ever since. So, that you talk about things working out, like that was the path. There was a reason. And,
yeah, for sure.
Right down that path, and I was fine with it. So we've been together now, been married almost 30 years. So, there's
awesome.
Definitely a reason.
That's definitely awesome to hear that, oddly enough, met my wife at work, after college, working at, AT&T. It's weird where you meet people, and you don't think anything's gonna come of that, and then lo and behold, here we are. Been married for 3 years, but been together for almost a decade now. So it's one of those things that you don't realize.
Yeah, same deal.
But yeah, I'm always amazed when you see couples nowadays that are 30 plus years into marriage. It's awesome to see that that's still existing, especially meeting where you guys did back in college and being able to go that long. That's
we joke about how different it was back then. It was like they had a book that you had in your dorm room, and it had every student in that book with their phone number, their 4-digit number, or whatever it was, and the fizz, and that's how you kind of randomly call people, and but that's that was kind of how it was. And, like I said, we've been together 30 years. We were babies and we got married. We were 20. Dude, I wasn't even legally able to drink at the point. And I'm not sure what our parents were thinking. Like I look at, my 20-year-old kids, and definitely my son at 20, I was like, he wouldn't have been mature enough to get married and have his own house and run a household per se. And like, there's no way. So like I guess different times, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, heck, I'm 35 and I still don't even think I'm, ready for that stuff. You know what I mean?
No, man, I'm 49. I'm not grown up yet. I'm not trying. I'm not trying to grow up.
No.
It's overrated.
I'm not either. Like it's funny. My wife looks at me all the time, and she just like just some of the, the immaturity and the joking around that I still do now. And, I mean, but I am a stand-up comedian too as well. So that definitely, doesn't help things.
That plays into it.
Yeah, that plays into it. And she just in all, she's like, it's just like no maturity in men is there. I was like, I mean, some of them do. And then she met my family, my 87-year-old grandfather, who's still cracking jokes and still acting. He just doesn't want to grow up. We're all just big kids. And yeah, it's funny to me that, the different worlds, but how they all melt together and it works. And it's funny to me.
Yep. Straight up. No, I mean, the children, that's what they call me a lot of time. You're a child.
Yeah.
Probably some days. Probably.
Yeah, absolutely. So you live in Lisbon, Ohio. How long have you, lived there? And, how did you wind up in Lisbon?
Yeah. So after my freshman year of college, knew that I needed to find a different path. And at the time, my father-in-law to be had started a new company, and there was an opportunity for me to come and work for him and go to Youngstown State and get my engineering degree. And it worked out really good. So I was able to actually move in with my brother-in-law to be at that time. I was living with him, working for my father-in-law to be, and then started going to Youngstown State. And me and Allison got engaged 3 or 4 months after that, and got married 10 months after that. And so it was a pretty quick, change of events for me. But so we basically moved here in 95. I moved back here in 94. My wife grew up in Lisbon, and her family's four generations graduated from Lisbon High School. From her side of the family, her grandfather, her mom, then her, and then our children. And now actually my daughter's actually teaching at Lisbon now. So it's been kind of a continuation. So kind of came up here. This is, their home base as a family. And so been in Lisbon since 1994, the year before they won the state championship here.
Okay. Yeah.
So, it became real addictive real quick. You move into town, they have a nice successful 6-4 season. They roll back the next year, and they're one of the first 14-0 teams in the state of Ohio and won a state championship in 1995. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. I always love hearing the success stories like that,
And it was quick, it was one of the things where like, as soon as I got to town and then this happens, and then they had a nice little run. And so, it was definitely an area. I was happy to stay in Lisbon at that point. And, we've had some good teams since then, but that was definitely one of the more special ones. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, you mentioned it a little bit there, you work for your family's business, can you tell us more about that? And, what is, your role and, what you do, with the business?
Sure. Absolutely. So, it's a family owned business, and, my father-in-law started it, and he brought my brother-in-law, Jason, and myself into it. And he's kind of brought us along. And then now, Jason and I actually run the company, and my father-in-law's, basically retired. And so we're a manufacturing company. We manufacture equipment for the labeling, inkjet, laser coating industry. So, everything you purchase has a barcode. You go to the grocery store, you go to the hardware store, it has a barcode on it. If you buy a chapstick or Burt's Bees, there's a label on it. And we actually, for those two items, we actually built the machines that apply the labels automatically.
Oh, okay.
So that's what we do. So it doesn't matter what you buy. If you buy ketchup or mustard or, you get a bottle of beer and there's a born on date, there's a laser that puts that born on date on an Anheuser-Busch bottle. And, we installed those lasers. So it's pretty cool. It's a niche industry. And, I started from the ground up. I mean, I was, I was cutting material, raw stock back in the day, all the way up through the machine shop, and then ended up in, on the engineering side, and I was an electrical engineer. And I did all that, and I've worked my way up through from engineering to, even doing the assembly, programming, testing, installations. So I've pretty much done it all here. And now I pretty much oversee everybody that does that stuff. So I have engineers underneath me. I have assembly guys underneath me. I have marketing. I have sales, shipping. All that stuff works kind of underneath me now. And my brother-in-law runs the production side, the manufacturing. So he handles the machine shop and the weld shop and our powder coating line. So he handles all that. And then I work on the other side of the other side of the building with the assembly and everything from quoting to assembly to getting it out the door. So it's pretty cool. It's fun. We have a lot of people that work here that, I have guys that play football for me that work here. I have guys that we've grown up with. I have a nephew. My son-in-law works for me now. And there's actually a gentleman that works for us that's actually went to high school with my mother-in-law. So he works part-time for us because he would be bored otherwise. So truly a family environment. I mean, there's very few people here that I don't know.
Yeah, I have,
distant, like through the family somehow.
Right. Yeah. It's great to see, somebody work their way up to where you're at now in a company. I think that's a lost art with most people. They get to a certain point and then they just kind of move on to the next thing, staying with one company and moving your way up. And, it's family owned. I love that. And it's like you said, it's niche based. Like it's not something people think about, there's barcodes on everything. And how that happens, nobody really, I guess you would know, but I mean, nobody really knows, how that happens or even really pays attention to it. So it is cool to see the kind of the behind the scenes of, that and kind of hearing how that works. Cause I have, like I said, I got a buddy of mine, his dad has owned, you may know it. It's Borden Office Supplies and,
yeah, I know Borden. Yep.
Yeah. Jerry Simpson. Yeah, I grew up 4 houses down from him. And, his son is now starting to learn the reins and being able to take over the business. He worked for him like every summer in high school. And, he kind of, like you, worked his way up and, soon his dad's partially retired right now. Couple more years, he'll be fully retired and it'll be his. And, it's nice to see that there are still some, I don't even want to say really mom and pop, but mom and pop family owned businesses that are still around and still thriving. That's the big thing for me. I will happily go spend my money on mom and pop.
Oh, for sure. And I think we still kind of view ourselves that way, right? We still kind of view ourselves as a mom and pop type of operation because we don't have a corporate entity above us, right? It is us. It's our rear ends on the line at the end of the day. But when you have good people working for you that carry the load, I mean, it makes a big difference, and we're real fortunate that way. And you're right. A lot of people don't. It's not that they don't want to work their way through. I think they just get impatient too quickly. I started at 20 years old, and before I had like a single person working underneath me, I was like 35. So like I did a lot of different things for a long period of time, but that's what it took to build our business up. Like it didn't build up overnight. It wasn't like we we showed up in year one, we're like, all right, we're a $10 million a year company. Like that doesn't happen. You don't build up, there was legitimately 4 employees at one point, and we talk about how, back in the day, there were weeks where, we didn't have enough money to cover payroll because, we just didn't get the money in from our customers. So like maybe my wife and I and my father-in-law and his wife, we would hold our paychecks for, 3 or 4 or 5 days. We wouldn't cash them because we didn't have the money in the checking account to do it. So you make those sacrifices. You worked, more hours than you got paid for, but it pays off in the long run. And I think some people don't see that. It's easy to see it when you're successful. It's hard to see when you're not. And but in the long run, I know I grew a lot from it. They say you learn more from your failures than your successes.
Absolutely.
And I had a ton of failures over a long period of time that I learned a lot from. So,
yeah, I love that quote. You learn more from your failures than you do your victories. Because basically, my line of work, my career path being a comedian, it's there's a lot of failures. There's a lot of, not every joke works. You know what I mean? And I tell new comics all the time, because I've been doing stand-up comedy for 12 years. And I tell people, and especially new comics, it's not if you're going to bomb on stage, it's when you're going to bomb on stage. It's going to happen. Like, you're not gonna please every crowd that you're in front of. You're not everybody's cup of tea, and it's gonna happen. And how you respond, because that's what a lot of these up and coming comics see is, okay, well, I'm not funny, so this one show didn't go that well, so I'm done with it, and they just kind of give up on the career path. And it's a grind. I've been doing it 12 years. I still haven't, quote unquote, made it. I'm still considered an up and comer. You know what I mean? Like, that's it's been working at something for almost a decade, and it's still not my full-time profession. And I think we live in such a, I don't want to say short attention span, but they want that instant gratification. Like, if I don't get,
for sure,
if I don't go on stage one time and I'm not filming a Netflix special the next day, like, this is just a waste of my time. Like that, I don't like it's. I blame social media. I love social media. I'm on it on every single one, mainly for this show and comedy career. But like TikTok, like anywhere from 15 seconds to a minute, and if you can't keep somebody's attention span for that long, you've lost them. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to pay attention to anything longer than that. And I think it's groomed people to want that instant gratification than wanting to work at something and actually try to build a career out of it.
Oh, I think absolutely. I mean, patience to get what you want is, it's a little bit different now. Everything comes to you easier and quicker than it was, 20 years ago and 20 years before that. I hate to be that guy sitting there, get off my lawn guy, but it's just different. It legitimately is different, and that's not a negative. It's just a fact. The fact is, you look at kids as a high school football coach, all these years, I look back to like when I coached my first year back in 2010, how much different it was then than it is, say, now. And part of it's technology, part of it's, the way society is. And it's not a knock on it. It is different. And if you don't adapt with it, then you are going to view it as a negative very quickly.
Yeah.
It is what the current environment is. And if, it's not the kids have changed, it's not the parents have changed, it's just society has changed, and you adapt with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a brief 1-year stint in swim coaching. I coached a summer swim program down here. And it was kids from anywhere from 8 years old all the way up to 18 years old through high school. So we had a very large team. We had a lot of like myself, an assistant coach, and to handle. We had 96 kids on the team, and it was they stuck me with the high schoolers because I was the only one that was coaching there, other than the head coach that had swam at college and actually told a story on here a million times, but had a chance at the 2012 Olympic trials. And if it wasn't for the injury, that was the path. So they stuck me with the older kid, and like one of them, like she fought me every day on, why am I doing this workout? I don't do this stroke. Why do I have to do this stroke in practice? Like, why do I have to? I didn't make districts last year, so it was kind of like, oh well, why am I even swimming if I'm not even going to be making districts? And it took me at 34 years of age with still a bum shoulder from swimming, being like, all right, you want me to get in and do the workout with you? Because I'll gladly get in the water and do this workout with you and show you that, I was a backstroker. That was the only stroke other than freestyle that I did in events. But I still practice breaststroke. I still practice the butterfly every day. And you think I went into college, it was my first year ever swimming, and I had a chance at the Olympics? Like, do you think that was the thing? I was like, no, I started when I was old enough to join a team at 8 years old, and been working at it, and had this injury not been able to keep me out of the pool, like I'd still be working at it. And I got in and I did the workout with them. I hated it the next day at 34 years old doing that workout, but it was it it's I they want that instant gratification. They want that, oh well, I need to be the best. And that's not a bad, it's not a bad attitude to want to be the best at something and master your craft, but it's the mastering part that they don't want to really work at, I think. And you know you mentioned there you coached with former guests of the show, Jeremy McElroy. So what was it like coaching with Jeremy? Because he's a former guest of the show, big supporter of the show. We're big fans of him. So I always love to hear when guests know each other and how that dynamic happens.
Yeah. So coaching for Mac, that was pretty cool for me. So at the time, I wasn't in coaching. I was trying to get into it, and a gentleman that I knew that I'd coached some Little League with, actually, just kind of helped out. Joe Wilson had been coaching for Coach Mack, and I'm like, hey, I'd like to really get into it. And he's like, all right, well, he wants to sit down and talk with you. So I'll never forget this for the rest of my life, because at the time, big Cavs fan, had season tickets, and it was the night of the decision. And Mac comes over to my house, and that's the night me and Jeremy sat down and just kind of chopped it up. And for him to decide whether he was going to let me come in and actually coach junior high at the time with Jim Salimos, and so we sat down. So I actually watched the decision with Jeremy, and that's how our first time that we'd ever spent together and actually met and stuff in my living room. And then so I started coaching junior high, and a high school opening actually popped up. And at the time, it was more of just like, hey, we need a body. And I knew nothing. I was as green as I could be. I was 30, in my early 30s. And so I was very green from a coaching standpoint. But, Jeremy showed a ton of patience with me and was just a very good mentor. And, kind of brought me along. Jeremy was at the time younger than me, still is obviously. He was younger than me. He was a head coach. It was his first time he was a head coach, was at Lisbon, and it was his third and final year there. And but he had a ton of patience with me. We didn't have very much success that year, but he allowed me to grow, gave me a lot of responsibilities. So I was actually coaching junior high at the time, full time. And then after junior high practice was done, I would go right to the high school practice. And so I would help them, and then work with the defensive staff on Saturday and Sunday, as a support guy, breaking down film, this is before we had Huddle. This is before we had all these great tools that we have now. So, we're watching film on a VHS or a CD, and, we're handwriting down, charting the stats ourselves to create our own, tendencies. And, as painful as it was, the awesome part about it was so much work, and it was so intense from a standpoint of like you were almost overwhelmed by it, that it really ingrained it into you. Like I learned so much that first year about breaking down film and creating the scout plays that you want to run against your defense that week, and trying to look for tendencies and trying to utilize those tendencies to create your game plan or to create, some options for yourself in the middle of a game. So, Mac was awesome. And after that third year, they, he left and ended up at Beaver Local and then Geneva as well. But I've stayed in touch with him. It's been pretty cool. We have a lot of, common friends, and ran into Jeremy a lot, and definitely still one of the first guys that really gave me a shot, and I learned so much from him.
Yeah, he was just a wealth of knowledge when we talked to him on here. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing, and I love the success stories like that, and the old school nature of that. I definitely, I think coaches are spoiled nowadays with the huddle and everything that they have, and not having to handwrite everything down. I still remember my coaches handing me literally a stack of paper on your stats and how the game went on Friday night. And even, my swim coach handed me a stack of paper. Here's your times, like they were handwriting them, like my times down, and old school stopwatch type deals. In the pool. It's a lost art, I think. But it's great that this, the huddle and everything like that, it's helping coaches, be better and be better prepared. As somebody, in high school, I was basically a habitual scout team on offense. So it's refreshing to hear that there was a lot of work that went into that game plan, I guess. I don't want to say like coaches aren't working, but it's back then, graduating high school in the early 2000s. It's nice to see that, there was a lot of work with the volunteers that came in. It's kind of sound like yourself there, that came in to help the team out, that were breaking down film. And, if they were chewing you out, they were chewing you out for a reason. You know what I mean? And it wasn't just that you weren't doing something. It was, hey, I spent hours watching your film. I need you to do this right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's funny, I look at it from a lot of different standpoints, because like I'm a product of technology today. Like I have so much technology at my fingertips as from a work standpoint, right? Like I can do stuff today as an engineer that they couldn't have thought of 35 years ago. And the same thing with coaching. Like we had to create the data, basically, to process the data. Where nowadays, these coaches are super intelligent. I mean, some of these young guys that I work with on staff now, they are unbelievably intelligent, and they take the information and they process it so rapidly. But they get it. It all comes to them like drinking from a fire hose. They get so much information. You get so much data. It actually could be overwhelming. You could actually have too much information in front of you to create a game plan. You have to like narrow your focus a little bit when you're looking at all the data that you can get from Huddle, because you could do too much. You can sit there and look at it like, oh, the tendencies when the running back is to the right and he's half a yard back from the quarterback, like, or he's wider. He's lined up over the tackle instead of over the guard. There's so many things you could look at and so much information you put in. So what you put into it, you can get out of it, but you could also kind of get lost in the weeds, right? You could be putting so much information in that you could spend all your time looking at data and not looking at personnel and not being creative as as a coach. So, that's actually a challenge for today's, new age of coaches to use the data in a way that it's not overwhelming. They're not overusing it, but they're using it enough that they're generating the type of game plans they really want.
Yeah. And it's definitely an information overload, for sure. Because it's like you said, you even hear it, and I understand it. It's at the pro level, and you hear the announcers even talking now. Oh well, Travis Kelsey's lined up outside. It's going to be a slant across the middle to him, and it is and they know exactly what's coming, and it's just from where he's lining up. And I even got to see a little bit of it, when I was coaching. Helped out at the YMCA. They were trying to build a program there. I was actually the head coach briefly. Budgeting didn't work out, so they did have to shut the program down. But at the time, we inherited a lot of equipment, and you wouldn't think there's a lot of technology that goes into swimming. It's like, oh, hand them a whistle and a stopwatch, and that's really all you need. And a couple of bathing suits and some goggles. But there's now earpieces that are waterproof that these swimmers can wear underneath their caps that will allow the coach to talk to them while they're swimming.
That's wild. That's absolutely wild.
Like it's evolved that much that, I want to work with so-and-so today. So they're really struggling with their breaststroke kick or whatever it is, you could talk to them through a headset while they're in the pool. Like I had one swimmer, like for whatever reason, it sounds like the most basic of things, but that flip turn that you have to do when you're getting into your turn, there's a science behind it. You have to know your strokes to the wall from a certain point in the pool, and they just could not get it down that, okay, it takes me 3 strokes and then I need to start my turn. And you're able to see that now as a coach, and now they could wear that earpiece and I can go 1, 2, 3, turn. And it helped them figure out, oh, okay, this is what I need to do. And it makes that athlete better, being able to do that. But yeah, it's crazy where technology is going. I'm almost scared to see where it's going.
Yeah. I mean, you figure, we've seen the transition of, you look at the college football game, right? Look at the game, and even college baseball. They're able to communicate with the quarterback or the defensive signal caller, right?
Oh yeah.
And same thing in baseball. Now they can communicate electronically with all the position players, with the pitcher, with the catcher. So you're not sending in signals. Like, at some point, very, very soon, you're going to see that become very, very prevalent in the high school game. You're going to start seeing high schools with kids, with the green dot on their helmet because they're getting the communication. Like there might be schools, there might be states that it's legal now, and there might be high schools that can afford that technology, and you're going to start seeing that. I think.
I don't disagree with that at all.
Which is wild. Which is wild to think.
I mean, heck,
I'm jealous.
Yeah, absolutely. I know there's probably people out there that's seen it, and I hope there's truth to this because there's commercials on about it's the all deaf. I think it's a high school where now all the players have a little eyepiece that hangs down from their helmet, and it literally tells them to play because they can't. You can't make a play call if you're dealing with deaf players in an all deaf school. Like they can't. This is going to sound bad. I mean this in the nicest way possible. They can't communicate, out on the field.
Correct.
And they have to have a way to do it. And now there is with the special helmet that these kids are wearing. And it's crazy. You mentioned something there when we were
in the. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say I've seen it in the college baseball game. My son plays college baseball at Bowling Green, and I've seen the communication kind of come in. Like, this is year 6 for him. He was a COVID guy, and then red shirt. So this was last year, but. His first 2 years, there was 0 electronic communication. And then we started seeing it come in. Like, year 3, year 4 more. Last year it was a ton of, just about every school. And then like this year's like even Bowling Green will have it. So it's wild.
That's wild. And basically, where I was going with this, saying that this technology can cause you to information overload, and be doing too much. And speaking of doing too much and having too much energy, you also know the Johnny Fitty Falcone, wonderful manager of the show, and you coached with him in his first ever year of coaching. So,
I did.
with someone who has that amount of energy, what was that like?
My man Johnny, man, that was something else. We know. So first year, me and Johnny, and we struck up a tremendous friendship, and even up through his family, like his dad and his uncle at one point ended up doing all the painting at our office because that's their family business was.
Mm-hmm.
But Johnny, so his first year, he comes in a little bit late, gets started, and so like I said before, I'm in my early 30s, a couple young kids, and week 1, John's like, hey, he's like, man, he's like, I gotta drive all the way back home and then come back tomorrow morning. I'm like, dude, if you want to, just sleep on my couch. And so my man slept on my couch for 10 weeks every Friday night, so that he didn't have to drive, an extra 3 hours.
Yeah,
and be back in the coaching office at 6 a.m. So that was pretty quick. Me and Johnny became friends, and my man had energy. He'd beat me up every morning, every Saturday morning. He was up well before I was, and he was ready to go. And he was a night owl, but he is a tremendous coach. It was fun to coach with him and to watch him grow. And even, I coached with him that first year, and he was on the offensive side. I was on the defensive side. We, everybody had to kind of do a little bit of both, but he was predominantly on the offensive side. So I didn't spend a lot of time with him, like on Saturdays and game planning. And typically we were on the opposite sides of the field, even during, team drills and stuff like that. And then, kind of work with Johnny a little bit when he was at Lowville too. And because we would scrimmage them, we would, exchange film with them if we had some, common opponents and stuff like that, or we could help each other out. So he was just always one of the good guys, right? And I could always count on him to give me honest information, honest feedback. If I called him and said, hey, we're playing so-and-so, what do you think? How do you think we match up? And, he'd be honest and be like, dude, you're going to get cracked. He would be honest with me, or, like, hey, you got a shot. This is what you got to do. You guys do this well. You got to stop the run, or, they're going to try to get you on the outside. You guys are weak on the outside. I can see that from the film I've seen. So you guys got to improve that, So he was always a good resource. But now it was cool. Like, cause he was just out of college. Like he was legitimately just out of college, just done with his athletic career. He's just hanging up the cleats for the first time. Which that's tough. That's tough on people. It's tough. I mean, the first time that you're an ex-athlete, I think that hits a lot of people a lot differently.
Oh, absolutely. That still hits me to this day. It's been, I'm 35. I stopped swimming when I was 20 because I had to. It wasn't a want to, I think that it's a little bit worse for those athletes where it's not a, it's time to hang up the cleats. It's no, I have to. It's my body's not allowing this to happen anymore, and it's sad to say with my sport, it's swimming, in that it's a very limited window. You don't see a lot of swimmers pushing 30 years old and competing in the Olympics. There's the select few freak athletes that are still doing it today that are in their 30s, but it's a young man's game, and it's when you're in that window and it gets taken away, that definitely is the hardest. Like my wife even said it, this year. Olympics year, and Summer Olympics. I'm sitting there and I'm watching the swimming, and I'm cheering for it like I'm at the pool, like on my couch. And she was like,
it gets right back to you, right? It just takes you back right to that moment.
And she was just like, you miss it, don't you? I was like, I miss it every day, being in the pool and being able to do that. Essentially, it's just, but yeah, it's tough. And I know Benny, because he was talking to me when he was thinking about leaving coaching and everything like that. He was just like, man, I think it's time to retire as a coach. I was just like, man, it's your call. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I can definitely tell this is not an easy decision for you. And yeah, I think even that as coaches, handing the whistle over, if you will, instead of hanging the cleats up. You know what I mean? Like doing that part of it, you could tell it was tough for him. And, and he still has that same energy. I mean, he helps me run this show, and I talk to him, I think, more than I talk to my wife sometimes, because he's always got ideas, and he's always going. And he is, I think he wakes up at like 150 miles an hour, going
100%
without
100%.
coffee, and he's ready to go. Because there's times,
yeah,
I mean,
I think you hit on something there too. I mean, you talk about how hard it is to hang it up as an athlete, right? It's the same as a coach. 4 years ago, I decided to step back as a full-time high school, as a coordinator. I was at the time I was coordinating. I was a defensive coordinator. I'd been doing that for a number of years, and I just, between my job and my son's spring and summer baseball schedule, I'm like, I'm kind of cheating the game. I can't do it, right?
Yeah.
And so I stepped back. And at first I was going to just not coach, like cold turkey, not coach. Well, then they come in, like, can you just help with the junior high? And they're like, you don't have to go every day. Just go, a couple of days a week. I'm like, all right, I'll do that. I'll just go one day a week. Well, next thing I know, I'm like going, every day of the week to junior high, and then, popping into the high school practice, and then going to the games on Friday night and helping out and watching film during the week. So I still couldn't do it. Like, I'm still in a similar role now. Like, I'm still just kind of a defensive consultant with that staff, because those are my guys still. Like the guys, the defensive coordinator played for me, coached with me, coached underneath me, and then now I'm coaching for him a little bit. And so, like, I couldn't step back. Like, I want to take a break, but at the same time, you know what? I feel like in a couple of years, like, I want to get back into it full time again. Like, I miss it. I miss the locker room. I miss the coach's office. I'm, everything from the shenanigans to the stress to the drama to the, just the camaraderie. There's probably way too many stories I have from the coaching office that I can never tell in public, because it would incriminate way too many people, right? And so, it's just like, those are the guys that locker room mentality, going through the stuff. Like, you talk with Mac. I mean, some of the nights I spent with Mac, I mean, I laugh at one of them that first year. Like, we're like week 2 or 3, and we had a tough game, we lost, and they hadn't won a lot of games while he was there, and we're in the coach's office till, I don't know, maybe midnight, 1 o'clock, somewhere in that range, right? Watching film, just like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And next thing we know, we see like a flashlight shining in from the window, and then a flashlight coming into the locker room, into the coach's office. It was the police. They saw the light on in the locker room. They thought maybe someone broke in or something, right? So but the police checking on us. So like, we're like, man, that's not a good sign for you, Jeremy. I don't know what to tell you, but right now, having the police walk in at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, I don't know if that's a good omen for the season at this point, buddy.
If we're struggling this much that the cops are getting called, that way,
I don't know.
We might need a new game plan.
Yeah, we gotta do some quick thinking here. So.
Oh, that's funny. And that's something that you would only see like either in the movies or in a TV show. That you don't think of that as something that actually happens. And I'm sure it happens a lot more.
Oh yeah.
Than what people think.
Oh yeah.
And that's hysterical. That's
Yeah,
so
it's
funny.
like I could just see the guy coming, the cop coming around in a small town, right? So, but he's,
Yeah,
he still got his
everybody.
hand he's kind of has his hand kind of hovering over his gun. So like, like, well, like, dude, I'm good. I'm good. Like nothing. No moss, no moss.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You mentioned it a little bit there. Something I love talking about with people that have busy roles. So you're a proud dad and husband. How do you balance being both of those roles and working and then even like you said, dabbling in coaching and everything like that? Because I know what it's like for me. As a as a comedian and still having a day job and working, the shows and the open mics and, son's got a football game. He's got this to do and, the wife's got this to do. We got that to do. And then it's holiday season and, and then, it's just, you got to find a nice balance. How do you find that balance for you?
Yeah. So it was tough. Thankfully for me at the time when I was really in the grind as a coach and the kids were coming up through, I didn't have as much responsibility at work. I still was working a full-time job, working 50 to 60 hours a week plus coaching. But, my wife, an absolute angel, a rock, she held the house in order while I was coaching. And she really did. She did everything. I mean, that was back when she used to mow the yard. She did everything. I legitimately just worked and coached, and she was huge with that. But to find the balance, the biggest thing was for me was learning how to be present. So if I was coaching, if I was on the practice field, I was in the coach's office, I was in my office breaking down film, like that's what I was doing. I wasn't focusing on anything else. So I was coaching. That's what I focused on. But when I was at home, I was present with them. So that was the biggest thing. And that took a couple of years for me to kind of find that balance. And it's definitely challenging because you can get kind of drawn in. But what I learned was when I was with my family, I was with my family. Like, didn't matter, bad day at the practice field, good day at the, on a Friday night, good Friday night, bad Friday night, didn't matter. My kids were young. My son grew up in the locker room. He was one of those fortunate ones that, at 6, 7 years old, man, he's in a high school locker room hanging out with kids that, he idolized. Right. And so he got a chance to be with me quite a bit. So that helped a lot having him with me. So like he was side by side, he was at all the games, he was at the practices and then ended up playing for me in high school. So, spending that time with him was really fun. But again, when I got home, man, I just had to be with them. And in the off season, man, I was super dad, right?
Yeah.
Like I made up for it. I always, the weekend after the season was over, the last Friday night, the next day is kind of a dark day. Like as a coach and your season's over, you're lost. Like after going, 10 weeks plus 2 days plus a summer, like you're lost when you come into that first Saturday and you have nothing to do. Maybe some guys are different, but man, I would always be like just sitting there, just like staring into space. I was lost. But then the next weekend, I always made it. Every year I did this. I always made it like my wife's weekend. So whatever she wanted to do, like legitimately, if she wanted to go to, go shopping, like, all right, I'll go to the mall. Like, I don't want to, but I'm going to do
That's
it.
what we're doing.
I'll go carry bags all day. Yeah. But like whatever she wanted to do, it didn't matter. She wanted to sit at home all day. She wanted me to cook or she wanted me to clean, like whatever she wanted me to do, man, I was going to do it. So, I made it kind of like her weekend, just kind of like, hey, listen, I know I haven't been around for a while. So, if you got me, it's all you. And then, the off season, my kids were very active. My daughter played basketball, high school basketball, junior high, AAU, all that stuff. And my son played a ton of baseball, played football, played basketball. And so, the off season for us was so focused on the kids and their sports that really I didn't have a choice but to be engaged. And so it was like, I wouldn't change it. It was awesome. I miss that grind. I miss the kids being in, junior high together and us trying to figure out how we're going to get from, this basketball game to this basketball game to pitching lessons to hitting lessons to, this practice, and somehow for me to still work and get to lifting and do so, that kind of stuff. So it was some crazy days, but I miss it. It was so much fun. It really, looking back on it, was so much fun.
Yeah, you mentioned it there. When you're home as somebody who's busy and has a career and a job that keeps them busy, like you're home. And it's I have my little. I don't have an exact office per se at my house though, but I have my little desk set up so like when I'm there, like I'm working on comedy, editing videos, editing podcasts, writing jokes and doing that stuff. But like when I'm away from it, like I'm away from it. That's time. And even like my wife and I, like, even though, I know we talked about it a little bit before the show, she kind of got a little bump on the head today at work, and we were both home by 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I couldn't tell you the last time I was home during the week at 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, and she couldn't either. And it's just like, so what do we do? It's still late out. I was like, well, you need to rest, one, because you had a bad day at work, and you need to rest. But yeah, it's weird. But even we were just sitting there, and we were both just watching TV, and that was kind of like our time. Son was off doing whatever 15-year-olds do nowadays, and it was And it was like, okay, well, we have the house to ourselves. It's kind of our time, and we just kind of want to sit in silence and watch TV. And that's what we do now. And it's just being there and being, like you said, being present in the moment.
Be present,
and just there. And it's a fine line sometimes that you have to toe a little bit, and schedules get tied up, especially this time of the year with her job. It's the busiest time of the year. I mean, as it is for everybody, the holiday season. But it's nice to be when I'm home. Like my phone goes down. It might as well be turned off because I don't even pay attention to it. It's down if I'm not at my desk and doing any work. I don't care who's texting me. It can wait till it's work time, not, family time. And, make sure to, be with the son, ask him, how was school? And he's 15, so same thing, different day. So cool.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think Nick Saban said it the best. One of the things that always stuck with me, that he had said it, and I think I heard it maybe 8-10 years ago, be where your feet are. And so that kind of goes into the same mantra of being present. Wherever you're at, man, just be where your feet are.
Absolutely.
Don't let your mind leave your feet.
I've never heard that quote, but I love it. I did just hearing it for the first time. It makes so much sense,
Ton.
And
speak straight off.
Yeah. Speaking of, Saban, you're a big football fan. Are you excited about the college bowl season starting here soon and the new 12-team playoff? And, do quick dive into that because we are running down near the end of the show here.
Yeah. So absolutely love this time of year. I was a lot more excited as an Ohio State fan. I was a lot more excited about the 12-team playoff about 3 weeks ago. But after the debacle against Michigan, I feel a little bit different. But everybody, there's outside of Oregon, every team stubbed their toe somewhere, right? Ohio State lost to Oregon by 1, but then they really stubbed their toe against Michigan, and everybody else kind of did the same thing. Everybody else has kind of an ugly loss, and so. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really cool. I think the fact that we got all these great games coming on the weekend of the 20th and the 21st. I mean, like I legitimately could could sit down and watch football for, about 10 hours, 12 hours.
Yeah.
And it's going to be great games, 3 great games back to back to back. And so really excited about that. I wish they would have done the seating a little bit differently. I think there's still some things you can tweak. Because, you can look at some of the paths and you're like, oh, that's a little bit easier path or this or that. Did Boise State really deserve a bye? I don't know. It's hard, but unbelievable. I think that we got a ton of great football. And then on top of that, then you back that up with New Year's Day. And those bowl games are going to mean so much more. And so I think it's going to be awesome. I think it's exciting for the game. I think it's exciting for the kids, the fans, it definitely brought a lot more excitement to the bowl season by adding the 12-team playoff.
Oh yeah.
Now we'll see if they tweak it a little bit. Maybe they start reseeding stuff after each week. That would be kind of cool. Like, talk about not knowing who your opponent is. That'd be kind of cool. Like, you play those games and then you're all right, we're going to reseed it. So the 1 seed still going to get the lower seed, even though it would have been maybe these guys. Well, now he deserves maybe the 12 seed won. Well, maybe the 1 seed deserves to play him. So I'd like to see some tweaks on that part, but it's going to be cool. I mean, Oregon's been a juggernaut all year. They've been fun to watch. Arizona State is playing at a high level right now. Their running back is I can't remember his name,
a beast, Skidabo.
He's an absolute beast. Yes, he's just running through people. Kind of reminds you of like a Mike Allstott type of dude, right?
Oh, you're speaking my language. Mike Allstott. That was my dude growing up. I'm a Buccaneers fan, so that I love watching Mike Allstott.
Give me a fullback. We're good to go, right?
Yeah.
So there could be some really cool games coming up. I think as a Buckeye fan, it's an interesting matchup with Tennessee. Everybody's been saying, oh, the SEC doesn't want to come north and play. Well, you know what? Actually, Tennessee, they might be built to play in this weather. I mean, they're a run first offense. They got a fairly aggressive defense. I mean, Ohio State's going to have their hands full, and I think a lot of Ohio State fans have a lack of confidence after the high level of confidence we had going into the Michigan game. So, no, and Penn State, I mean, they battled back against Oregon and looked better than I expected. So,
oh yeah.
There's a lot of good teams, and Notre Dame just seems to find ways to win.
They really do.
I don't know.
They really do.
I mean, Oregon's obviously the favorite. I mean, how do you not put Oregon as a favorite? But there's half a dozen teams. I mean, Georgia, and now they don't have a quarterback, but the other guys.
Dude, their backup. I can't even think of his name, but their backup that came in the SEC championship game, I kind of thought he was looking a little bit better than I think it was name right now, but Beck.
He looked better than Beck. I mean, and he about got his head knocked off too, and held on to the ball and still came back and finished the game. So he, hey, who knows? And Texas, I mean, Texas is like one of those teams that they're
sneaky
Jekyll and Hyde,
good,
man. But they're Jekyll and Hyde. Like, they come out 1 week and they just look like world beaters, and then the next week they look like they didn't practice. Like, I'm not saying they look that bad, but like just
they didn't game plan enough. They're looking over this team to the next. Yeah, I get that for sure.
Something's off, and I can't put my finger on it, but just they're not executing at the level they did, per se, the week before. And Ewers is a great quarterback, and with Arch Manning behind him, I mean, and Sarkisian's a heck of a coach. So I mean, it's just I'm excited, man. I'm like, let's go. It sucks that we have to wait 2 weeks to play.
Right.
I'm ready for. I mean, I'm gonna be. I mean, even though this weekend's pretty cool, you get the Army Navy game on Saturday. So yeah, I'm
excited about that one.
Always excited to watch that one. Yes, absolutely. Fear the bones, baby. Fear the bones.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm super excited. I've been saying since the college football playoffs started that it needed to be more than 4 teams.
Mhm.
I didn't think quite to the level of 12. They kind of went above and beyond what I've been shouting at the rooftops for years now. Is they needed to make it an 8-team playoff, and kind of like a similar concept. You have the Power Five uh, conferences. All the conference champions make the playoff. That's why you play championship games. And then you have these schools like for an Army and people in the MAC and the WAC. If you go undefeated, we're going to give you a shot at it. You're going to
Mhm.
go in and you're going to play a Georgia. You're going to play a Tennessee. You're going to play an Ohio State, and it gets these schools more TV time. It gives them more recruiting opportunities because now people are seeing them, and it ultimately all comes down to money. They're getting money to play these games, and it's
Mhm.
I didn't think they'd go to 12. I thought they'd start at 8, which I thought was a good number, but we'll see how 12 works out. I'm kind of digging it watching the selection show Saturday. Like, all right, let's
Mhm.
see, or Sunday, yeah, Sunday watching the selection
Yeah,
show. Like,
Sunday.
all
Yeah.
right, let's let's see who gets in. And I was screaming for SMU to make it over Alabama. I
Yeah.
don't think that their losses, they looked way too bad. And
And you can't
SMU,
lose the sub 500 teams.
right? That's like I'm a West Virginia fan. I was born and raised in West Virginia. I'm a Mountaineer fan through and through. I'm so happy Neil Brown is gone. Yeah, so happy he's gone. It's unreal.
Bringing Rich Rod back, baby. They're gonna bring
uh,
Rich Rod back.
I'm so upset about that, but yeah, there's a lot of mixed feelings with Rich Rod coming back. But yeah, it's you have these 3 lost teams. It used to be, oh, we lost the game, the playoffs out of the mindset. Now we can't make the playoff at a 14 playoff. Now you got 2, and I think there's a 3-loss team in there now. It is, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't. If there is a 3 loss, I'm losing track of that. But I know there's 2 lost teams.
Yeah, I think there's
Yeah.
one. I don't know who it is. I'm almost positive it's a 3-loss team because I was kind of upset. Like, okay, you got a 3-loss team in here, but um, nevertheless, it's an interesting concept. I'm excited for it, and I can't wait to see how it all shakes out. I think, like you said, there's some tweaks that they're gonna make.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, I can't wait to see how it all unfolds. But like I said, Charles, we are running down near the end of the episode here. I do have to get this segment in. We've been bringing it back more and more. I love this segment, and it is the Fast Fitty Five. 5 random questions from the wonderful manager of the podcast, Johnny Fitty Falcone. These are kind of
Oh,
rapid
geez.
fire for the newer listeners out there, but you can elaborate if you need to. He sent these to me today, Charles. So we're going to read these together and kind of jump off this cliff and build our wings on the way down. And I know you know Johnny, so if you're ready for these questions, we'll go ahead and get rolling.
Let's give it a shot. I'm ready.
All right. Question number 1. What are your thoughts about Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch?
Love it. Love him.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how you go
Grew up
anywhere
on
other
him.
than
Grew
that.
up on
Right.
Marky Marcus.
Yeah.
He's
Marky.
legendary. So did I.
Yeah. I still listen to 90s on 9 in my car on Sirius XM, and that Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch comes on, and I'm singing right along with it. It's I'm with you. Question number 2. Best place to get breakfast food is?
Ooh. I'm going to say Kermit's in Bowling Green, Ohio.
Oh, okay. Never been there, but all right. Take your word for it.
Legit.
Question number 3. How many cups of coffee is too many in a day?
There is no too many. I'm definitely like an 8 to 10 cup guy.
I'm not that much. I'm a solid 2 to 4 a day right now. It's getting more. I'm leaning more towards the 4 than I am the 2 anymore. But so it's
I have an
increasing.
issue, man. I way too much caffeine.
So do I. I always make the joke, this old boy here runs on caffeine and nicotine. That's the only thing that keeps me going at this point in time right now.
Straight
so
up.
it's the only thing that keeps me
straight
going.
up here. I'm right with you, man. Right with you.
All right. Question number 4. Would you rather be an alligator or a giraffe?
Definitely an alligator. Predatory, baby.
Yeah. Someone who grew up, I'm 6'5". I always get called the giraffe. I got to go alligator for myself on this one.
Yeah.
I can't.
I'm like 5. I'm 5'9", but I'm still sticking with it, man.
No, I'm with it. I'm all for the alligator, and trust me. The last question here: Happy Gilmore or the Goonies? Which sequel are you more excited about?
Happy Gilmore by far.
Yeah,
that one is still. I mean, how many times do you not reference something from Happy Gilmore?
Every day of my life, I'm forever referencing Happy Gilmore. And
even though I grew up a Goonies guy, right? Like I grew up, because being a little bit older than you, like Goonies, like that was big. But man, Happy Gilmore is probably one of my top 10. Easily a top 10 movie. Easily.
That's
easily.
Oh, that was the Fast 55. So yeah, that was the Fast 55. A little tougher questions, and he's been going with some of the guests now, so he's getting back into his old form. We kind of got away from this segment a little bit and started doing more round tables and stuff like that. So it was good to bring. I'm so happy this segment is back. I love this segment and just the way this man's mind works. It's it's phenomenal.
I appreciate it. It got me on my toes real quick.
Absolutely. Well, Charles, like I said, we're running down near the end of the episode. I give every guest this opportunity at the end of the show. If there's anything you want to get out there, anything you want to promote, anything, or if it's just a good message that you have, I'm going to give you about a minute, and the floor is yours.
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk. I enjoyed it. First time I've really got a chance to do something like this. I really don't have anything I need to promote. I do want to just say that, if you need to unload some money at the end of the year, Bowling Green is trying to turf their baseball field. You can donate money there. There's my shameless plug. Donate money, turf the Stellar Field, Bowling Green University. Would love that.
Absolutely. I'm all for helping out in any way that we can. So if there's a link or anything like that where people can donate that, send that to me. We'll put that in the description of this episode so that people can go and donate right from the show here. So
yep, any of you millionaires and billionaires, just send that money right now. We're good. We're ready to go.
I hope I have at least one millionaire or billionaire listening to the show, man. I really do. And if you're listening, and if you're listening and you're a millionaire or billionaire, we are always looking for new sponsors for the show. So
absolutely partnership. It's a great partnership. Let's do it.
Absolutely. Well, that is actually going to do it for this week's episode of the Ride Home Rants podcast. I want to thank my guest, Charles Bell, for coming on. This was a lot of fun getting to talk to you. Glad we got to do this and get to sit down and do this. But as always, if you enjoyed the show, be a friend, tell a friend. If you didn't, tell them anyways. They might like it just because you didn't. That's going to do it for me, and I will see y'all next week.
The Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Dubby Energy. Energy drinks made for gamers, streamers, and podcasters alike. For gamers, streamers, and podcasters alike. Go to the link in the description where you can find the best energy drinks out there. Less caffeine than a cup of coffee. Also, no jitters and no crash afterwards. Use the promo code Mike Bono and get yourself 10% off. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by my favorite sponsor of the show, and that is Shankit Golf. Golf apparel made for the everyday golfer. We might not go out and shoot a 6 under par. We're probably going to shoot a 6 over par. But this is going to give us the gear that's going to help us rock it on and off of the course. Go to the link in the bio. Use the promo code Mike Bono and get yourself 10% off there as well.